Have you ever sat in a conversation where someone talks over you, dismisses your opinions, or treats your time like it's disposable? And when you finally react, you're the one painted as too sensitive or overreacting. They interrupt. They undermine. They ignore the boundaries you've clearly set. And what's worse, you're expected to keep smiling, nodding, staying quiet, all in the name of being the bigger person. But let's be real. Being the bigger person doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean tolerating behavior that chips away at your confidence, your peace, or your self-worth. Today, we're rewriting the script. This isn't just about calling people out. This is about calling your power back. It's about learning how to navigate disrespect with unwavering calm, without losing your mind or your dignity. Because respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you embody. By the time you finish this video, you'll walk away with a sharper lens, a stronger backbone, and 5 powerful tools that will help you shut down disrespect silently, confidently, and effectively. So take a deep breath, because it's time to stop accepting the bare minimum and start showing up like someone who knows exactly what they bring to the table. Number 1, embrace the silent stare. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable some people get when you don't respond to their provocations? That awkward silence, the one that lingers just a little too long, it can be deafening, and that's the power of the silent stare. Silence is not weakness. It is one of the most commanding responses you can give to disrespect. Why? Because it forces the other person to confront themselves. When you respond with silence and eye contact, not anger, not defense, but quiet strength, you send a message that's louder than any words. When someone disrespects you, they're often seeking a reaction, a rise, something to throw back at you or to confirm their opinion of you. But when you just look at them, calm, steady, unshaken, it unsettles them. It makes them question their own behavior. That silence becomes a mirror. Imagine this. You're in a meeting and someone interrupts you mid-sentence with a dismissive comment. Everyone expects a comeback. But instead of reacting, you stop speaking. You look directly at them, steady, silent, composed. The room grows still. That silence? It's more powerful than 100 clever retorts. You've just reclaimed control without saying a word. Here's another example. A woman I know, we'll call her Maria, was constantly belittled by her brother-in-law during family gatherings. He would make sarcastic remarks and try to undermine her in front of everyone. One day, instead of laughing awkwardly or defending herself, Maria just paused, looked at him with calm indifference, and said nothing. She didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. And over time, his comments lost their punch. He realized he couldn't rattle her anymore. And the room began to notice his behavior instead of hers. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you refuse to respond with hostility, when you meet disrespect with dignity, you show that you are in full control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't rush to defend or retaliate. Embrace the silent stare. Hold your ground. Let your silence speak volumes, because sometimes the strongest message comes from saying absolutely nothing. Number 2, let silence be your sword. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. There's a reason the phrase silent treatment exists. But what I'm talking about isn't pettiness. It's about choosing to disengage with elegance, power, and precision. You see, when someone crosses a line, maybe it's a sarcastic remark, a dismissive gesture, or a subtle dig cloaked in humor. Our first instinct is often to defend ourselves, to speak up, to prove we're not what they say. But here's the twist. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Think of silence as your mental armor. When someone disrespects you, they're fishing for control. Your reaction, your anger, your explanation, your frustration, that's the bait. Don't bite. Let me give you a real-life moment. I once had a coworker who loved to embarrass people subtly in meetings, little jokes that made others laugh but left a sting behind. One day during a brainstorming session, he said, "Well, we all know you're not the most creative type, but let's hear it." The old me might have chuckled awkwardly or tried to defend my ideas harder. But this time I looked at him, said nothing, just calmly stared, then turned to the next person and shared my idea without skipping a beat. The energy in the room shifted. People felt it. He looked uncomfortable. Guess what? He never made that kind of joke again. At least not to me. Um, Another story. A woman in one of my workshops shared how a friend would constantly nitpick her parenting choices. What she fed her kids, how much screen time they had, even how they dressed. Every lunch turned into a subtle interrogation. One day, instead of defending or justifying, she simply stayed silent. No rebuttals, no tension. She sipped her coffee and smiled. The friend eventually stopped and even apologized weeks later, saying, "I was being judgmental. Sorry." Why Mane? Because silence creates a vacuum. And in that silence, people often hear their own behavior echoing back. Why silence works: 1. It steals their power. They want your reaction. They expect a clash. But when you stay calm, they're left standing in their own mess. 2. It forces reflection. Silence is a mirror. It makes people hear their own words louder because they're not drowned out by yours. 3. It protects your peace. You conserve energy. You walk away unbothered, and you stay grounded while they spin in their own discomfort. Use silence like a sword, not a shield. It's not about avoiding confrontation. It's about choosing your battles and realizing that not every insult deserves your energy. Sometimes the most confident person in the room is the one who speaks the least and is still heard the most. Pro tip: next time someone makes a passive-aggressive comment, pause. Don't respond right away. Count to 5 in your head. Let the silence settle in. Then either change the subject or walk away with a calm face. You'll be amazed at how powerful it feels. Number 3, stop explaining yourself. One of the most exhausting things in life is constantly feeling the need to explain yourself to people who have already made up their minds about you. Have you ever noticed how some people don't really want to understand you? They just want to be right about you. Every time you try to clarify your intentions, every time you break down your choices in hopes of being seen clearly, you're not just exhausting yourself, you're also giving them power. You're handing over your peace for the possibility of their approval. But here's a truth that can free you. You don't owe everyone an explanation, especially not those who have shown you that they don't respect you. People who respect you won't need endless clarification. They'll trust your character. They'll believe your heart. But those who disrespect you, they'll twist your words. They'll take your vulnerability and turn it into ammunition. Not because they misunderstood you, but because they want to misunderstand you. Let me give you an example. I once worked with a man named Thomas. He was thoughtful, precise, and deeply passionate about his work. But there was a colleague, Mark, who never liked him. Mark would constantly challenge Thomas's decisions in meetings, not out of concern but to undermine him. So Thomas tried explaining. Over and over, he laid out reasons, showed the data, even apologized when he didn't need to. And guess what? Nothing changed. In fact, Mark used those explanations to twist things further, to say, "See, even he's unsure." Until one day Thomas stopped explaining. He simply said, "This is the direction we're taking," and moved on. No drama, no justification. The result? Mark had nothing to push back on. His power came from the back and forth. And once that stopped, so did the game. When you stop explaining yourself to people who disrespect you, you take away their ability to manipulate your narrative. You stop trying to earn validation from someone who has no intention of giving it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that self-respect is not up for debate. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In other words, live in such a way that your integrity is seen, not spoken. Let your actions, not your explanations, be your message. So how do you stop explaining yourself? 3 powerful steps. 1. Recognize when someone's not listening to understand, but to argue. If they twist your words once, they'll likely do it again. 2. Respond with clarity, not defensiveness. Say what you mean once, with confidence, and move forward. Let your results speak. Nothing silences critics like consistent, visible proof of your strength. At the end of the day, you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. The people who matter will see it. The people who don't never will, no matter how many times you explain. So stop talking, start walking, and let your presence become the explanation. Number 4, keep your distance. Not all distance is physical. Sometimes emotional distance is what saves your peace. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, it's a clear signal. They're not interested in changing. And if they won't change, you must, not to please them, but to protect yourself. Creating distance isn't about being cold or dramatic. It's about choosing your peace over their chaos. It's about recognizing that your energy is currency, and not everyone deserves to spend it. Here's the truth. You don't have to make a big announcement. You don't need to send a long message saying, "I'm cutting you off." You simply start choosing yourself in small, powerful ways. You stop replying immediately. You limit interactions to what's necessary. You remove yourself from conversations that drain you. That's what healthy distance looks like. Real story. A client of mine, let's call him Kevin, had a cousin who constantly disrespected him in front of the family. Little jabs like, "Well, not everyone's meant to succeed like the rest of us," or, "I guess you're still trying to figure life out, huh?" For years, Kevin laughed it off, trying to be the bigger person. But the comments never stopped. One day, after a particularly rude remark at a birthday dinner, Kevin didn't argue. He didn't explain. He quietly got up, said he had an early day tomorrow, and left. From that point on, he stopped attending every family event. He only responded when necessary. He chose silence and, more importantly, distance. What happened next? That cousin lost access to Kevin's presence, and suddenly the disrespect faded. Why? Because when the audience disappears, the performer is forced to face himself. Another example. A woman I once mentored had a friend who constantly dumped her problems on her, complaining, venting, but never listening in return. Every phone call left her drained. Every coffee meetup felt like emotional labor. So she stopped initiating. She became less available. Eventually, the friend stopped calling altogether. Did she lose something valuable? No. She gained peace. Why distance matters? 1. It sets silent boundaries. You don't need to yell or argue. Your absence speaks louder than confrontation ever could. It gives you clarity. When you step back, you see people's behavior more clearly. You stop making excuses for them. It protects your energy. Distance lets you focus on people who pour into you, not those who tear you down. Pro tip, pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. If you feel drained, anxious, or smaller, that's not just life, that's a sign. Respect yourself enough to create space. You were not born to be someone's emotional punching bag. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to create distance without guilt. Because self-respect sometimes sounds like, "Go on, and no text back, no explanation, just space. Number 5, hold your head high. Self-respect isn't about arrogance. It's about refusing to shrink for people who refuse to grow. When people don't respect you, it's easy to internalize their behavior. To start wondering, did I do something wrong? Or maybe I deserve this. But let's set the record straight. Their inability to see your worth says everything about them and nothing about you. Holding your head high doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It means standing in your truth, even when others try to diminish it. Here's the truth. Some people will dislike you simply because your confidence reflects the insecurity they refuse to confront. Some will criticize you, not because you're wrong, but because they're uncomfortable with your strength. And some will try to dim your light because it shines too brightly on their own shadows. But here's where your power lies. You don't let it change who you are. You don't lower your standards just to be accepted. You don't water yourself down just to make others feel comfortable. You walk forward, chin up, eyes forward, with or without their approval. Example 1. Standing tall in a workplace of subtle disrespect. Let me tell you about Julia. She was a team leader in a company where the leadership circle was dominated by men. She was competent, respected by her team, but constantly overlooked for promotion. Why? Subtle disrespect. Meetings where her ideas were ignored, only to be repeated by someone else later. Emails where she was left out of critical decisions. She was told to be more agreeable, to not take things personally. Instead of shrinking, Julia did the opposite. She documented her work. She advocated for her team. She spoke with clarity and purpose, even when it made others uncomfortable. Eventually, she was offered a position at a different company, one that recognized her worth immediately and offered her the role and salary she truly deserved. She walked out of the old place, head held high, not bitter, just better. Example 2. Emotional disrespect in personal life. Or take Amir, a young man raised in a family where emotional strength was seen as weakness. Every time he opened up, he was mocked. Every dream he shared was met with sarcasm. One day, after being shut down again for expressing his plans to start a business, he looked around and realized something. I'm waiting for validation from people who've never believed in anyone but themselves. That night, he stopped looking for approval. He started building his business, quietly, steadily. 2 years later, that business funded his first home. The same relatives who once mocked him, now they brag about him at parties. But Amir never sought revenge. He just kept his head high and his eyes on the road ahead. So how do you hold your head high? 1. Affirm your worth daily. You don't wait for someone to compliment you. You remind yourself of your strengths, your growth, and your value. Detach from external validation. You stop giving people the power to define how you feel about yourself. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. You don't need the whole world to applaud. You just need to stay proud of how far you've come. Power reminder. Confidence isn't about having everything figured out. It's about showing up anyway, especially when people hope you'll stay silent. So when they overlook you, speak up. When they doubt you, keep building. When they disrespect you, respect yourself even more. Because the moment you hold your head high, you teach the world how to treat you. Closing, your power, your peace. Closing, your power, your peace. Let's be honest. Navigating life around people who don't respect you isn't just frustrating. It's draining. It chips away at your confidence, your energy, your spirit. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you command through the way you carry yourself and the boundaries you uphold. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to prove your worth to be valuable. And you certainly don't need to chase people just to feel seen. Your greatest strength will always be your ability to walk away from what insults your soul and still smile, still grow, still protect your peace. Because at the end of the day, your peace is your responsibility. Your self-worth is your foundation. And your power. It's in how you respond when the world tries to test you. Let me leave you with this. You don't rise by pleasing everyone. You rise by knowing who you are and refusing to shrink for anyone. You don't win by outshouting the disrespectful. You win by showing that their chaos doesn't deserve your calm. And you don't find peace in controlling others. You find peace in controlling yourself, your reactions, your focus, your direction. Final thought, imagine this. A mountain doesn't move because of the wind. It stands tall, silent, still, and unbothered. Be that mountain. Let the wind howl. Let the storm rage. Let the noise pass. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to prove every truth. You don't need to react to every disrespect. Because the moment you decide that your peace is more important than their approval, you unlock a freedom most people never find. So today, make a decision. Protect your space. Respect yourself. Walk with quiet power and never let anyone make you forget. Your peace is sacred and your power is non-negotiable. If this message spoke to you, leave a comment below with the words, "I choose peace." Click like, subscribe, and share this with someone who might need a reminder that their silence isn't weakness, it's strength. Thank you for watching. Until next time, walk tall, stay grounded, and protect your peace.